Good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. All of us here in the sanctuary welcome you who are joining us online. Let's all wave to the folks at home through this camera here. Good morning. I welcome you who are here in our sanctuary and all who are attending virtually, wherever you may be this morning. My name is Lorraine Stidd, and I am happy to be your worship associate this morning. And it is my pleasure to be serving with Gina Talento, who is joining our worship team. Our interim minister is the Reverend Dr. Madelyn Campbell, and our Director of Religious Education is Deb Little. Please plan to join us after the service for coffee and conversation. For those who are with us online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you will find the link for joining our small group chats. Whether here or online, you will find some friendly folks who can answer any questions you may have. Now, please allow your mind to settle and your heart to open as we enter our time of worship with the sounding of the bell.
Come, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Enter into this hour made holy by our intention. Let us put aside our busyness for this hour as we join in community here together. Let us worship together.
Good morning. I have asked Linda Michael to light our chalice this morning. If you are joining us from home, perhaps you would like to light your own chalice or candle. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. In the spirit of love, we light our chalice this morning with words from the humanist African philosophy of Ubuntu that encourages interconnectedness and community equality. A person is a person through other people. I am because we are. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing 1014, Answering the Call of Love. Please note that the lyrics have been changed, so if you see standing on the side of love, please change that to Answering the Call of Love.
Good morning, beloveds. I'm having a mask hair day, so that's why it's taking me a second to regroup here. So it gives me such joy to see all of your faces. As I told you last week, your children are also learning about the proposed Article 2 Statement of Values. This week, we're talking about equity and justice in RE. Those of us who are older grew up learning about the importance of equality. But equality assumes that everyone needs the same things. Now we know that we need equity to address the needs and barriers faced by individuals or communities with diverse backgrounds and unique challenges. You may remember, or not, that I shared the story of the day the crayons quit with you this past fall. The crayons were fed up from overuse or underuse, or neglect or boredom from always being used to color the same things. Duncan made some changes that soothed their hurt feelings, but now a whole new group of crayons is pleading for help. So here we go. The Time for All Ages is The Day the Crayons Came Home by Drew Daywalt. So one day, Duncan and his crayons were happily playing when a strange stack of postcards arrived for him in the mail. Dear Duncan, I don't remember if you remember me. I don't know if you remember me, since you only colored with me once. But never mind. You left me on the couch, and then your dad sat on me and broke me in half. I never would have survived if Paperclip hadn't nursed me back to health. I'm finally better, so can you please come get me? Your marooned crayon in the couch. Hey, Duncan, remember me, neon crayon? Remember our great vacation and how we laughed and drew a picture of your dad's sunburn? Remember dropping me by the hotel pool when you left? Clearly not, because I am still here. Please come get me. Duncan, it's us, yellow and orange. Remember how we used to argue about which one of us was the real color of the sun? Neither of us wants to be the color of the sun now, not since the sun melted us together. You can make green the color of the sun for all we care. Just bring us home. Dear Duncan, I'm sure you don't recognize me after the horror I've been through. I think I was tan or burnt sienna. I can't tell anymore. Have you ever been eaten by a dog and puked up on the rug? Because I have, and I can tell you it is not pretty. I'm more carpet fuzz than crayon now. Can you please bring me back? Dear Duncan, it's me, Neon Crayon. I'm almost home. Been through China, Canada, and France, I think. Just crossing New Jersey by camel now. New Jersey has giant pyramids, right? See you soon. Duncan, does page 8 of Pirate Island ring a bell? I told you you'd make me blunt if you colored each coin individually. But would you listen? No. I also told you that those stupid crayon sharpeners never work. Did you listen to that? Also, no. Your pointless friend, Gold Crayon. Dear Duncan, you're probably wondering why I'm stuck to your sock. A question I ask myself every day. Well, it's because last week you left me in your pocket and I ended up in the dryer. I landed on your sock and now he's stuck to my head. Can you please come get me? Also, why does everything you wear still smell even after it's washed? Your stinky, socky, stucky turquoise crayon. Dear Duncan, I belong to your baby brother, but I can't take him anymore. In the last week alone, he's bitten the top of my head, put me in the cat's nose, drawn on the wall, and tried to color garbage with me. Please rescue me. Big, chunky toddler crayon. Duncan was sad to learn of all the crayons he'd lost, forgotten, broken, or neglected over the years. So he ran around gathering them up. But Duncan's crayons were also so damaged and differently shaped than they used to be that they no longer fit in the crayon box. So Duncan had an idea. He built a place where each crayon would always feel at home. And for those of you in the back, this wonderful crayon house says things like, "No dogs allowed," "Everyone welcome." I can't remember all the things it says. Crayon Fort. It's called the Crayon Fort. Thank you. I will leave it up by the blue rug if you want to come see it later. Amen. So now I'm going to set this down. Invite you to turn to the last page of your hymnals. Back cover, I'm supposed to say. Back cover of your hymnals. And get ready to join us in the Reeves Children's Benediction. I invite the children to join their teachers at the door. So Steve and Michelle are teaching the elementary class, and Peter is Garrett in here? He might be back there already working on the yellow room for the junior high class. Thank you.
Following our meditation in word, we will sit in silence for a minute, and then we will sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. You are invited to light a candle during the service today, right over here. You might wish to do it during the meditation or perhaps during the offering. Our meditation this morning is from the proposed new language for Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations bylaws. And this section is about justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive, democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. And this section is about equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities.
This song, Special Treatment, was written by Paul Kelly, an Australian songwriter and performer. He wrote Special Treatment as a sarcastic response to false claims by Western Australian politicians and others that the Aboriginal people of Australia were receiving special treatment.
Grandfather walked this land in chains, a land he called his own. He was given another name and taken into town. He got special treatment. He got special treatment. Very special treatment. My father worked a 12-hour day as a stockman on the station. The very same work, but not the same pay as his white companions. But he got special treatment. He got special treatment. Very special treatment. Mother and father loved each other well, but together they could not stay. They were split up against their will until their dying day. But they got special treatment. Yeah, they got special treatment. Very special treatment. Mama gave birth to a stranger's child, a child she called her own. Strangers came and took away that child to a stranger's home. But she got special treatment. She got special treatment. Very special treatment. She got special treatment. She got special treatment. Very special treatment. I never spoke my mother's tongue. I never knew my name. I never learned the song she sung. I was raised in shame. But I got special treatment. I got special treatment. Very special treatment. Oh, we got special treatment. We got special treatment. Very special treatment.
I love when the music is the sermon for me. So I know at least one person here knows. Who knows what's Tuesday? What's happening on Tuesday? Marie knows, what is it? It's Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. Fat Tuesday, because on Wednesday it's Ash Wednesday and Lent begins. So Mardi Gras is the culmination of Carnival. And anybody here going to have pancakes for supper? Yeah. I make a point of having pancakes for supper on Fat Tuesday. It's also called Shrove Tuesday. What gives, Pastor Madelyn? I thought this was a sermon on justice and equity. Well, give me a minute. I hear you. So the history of Mardi Gras is really interesting, the history of Carnival in general. It's that time between Epiphany and Lent. Man, this is getting liturgical, right? And in the Middle Ages, peasants largely began celebrating. It was a time for wild parties, because Lent is definitely not a time for wild parties. But what began happening was that the peasants, the disenfranchised, the oppressed, began to really let off steam, and the oppressors recognized that this controlled release of steam was important to avoid an explosion. And so it's a time of things turning on their heads. Right? And there's a carnival king, and that person is usually very bawdy and not at all someone who's elevated in the community, usually. And if anybody I think I asked this last year, does anybody get king cakes? You know what a king cake is? So a couple of you know. When I lived in the DC metro area, there were a lot of folks there who were familiar with carnival culture, and you could get king cakes there's a fabulous New Orleans bakery that I can tell you about in Arlington, Virginia, if you're ever interested. But you can get these king cakes, and there's a baby in the king cake. And if you get the baby, you're going to be the king for the next year. But what's the point of all of this topsy-turvy stuff? For the peasants, it's a time to think about justice in the world, putting things right. Now, I've never been to Carnival and Mardi Gras in New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans, but not during Carnival. But anybody here been? Several of you have been. One of these days, I would like to go there, or Brazil, and really, or somewhere in the Caribbean, and really experience Carnival. Hey, let's think about that. New Orleans, the Caribbean, Brazil. Places known for the super wealthy elite, right? Not so much. And New Orleans is a mix, right? There's definitely that in New Orleans. But again, this is a holiday of the people. And in New Orleans, in particular, there are colors for Mardi Gras. And I'm going to step out here. Some of you have already commented on my stole this morning. And this is a gorgeous stole. This was knit for me by a friend as a total surprise. And it has green and purple on it, which are two of the colors of Mardi Gras. And the other color is gold. Purple stands for justice. Green stands for faith, and gold stands for power, because we know that she who has the gold often has the power. Anybody here want more power? I want more power. Do you not want more power? You don't want to change the way things are anywhere? You're good with the way things are? Anybody here want more power? Yeah, okay. Power itself is not a bad thing. The abuse of power is a bad thing, right? So even from the Middle Ages, people were thinking about justice, faith, and power, how it all intertwined. And it was tied in with the church in the Middle Ages, and there were some pretty bawdy things that would happen in the church. And eventually that stopped because the church really didn't like that. But we're going to talk about justice this morning and equity. These are two petals on our new proposed Article 2 flower. I keep calling it a flower. You can call it a fan, peacock, I don't know. What does it look like to you? And what's at the center? What's at the center? Did folks at home hear that? Let's try that one more time. What's at the center? Love. Okay, the folks at home probably heard that one. Love is at the center. And then we're looking at all the words that surround love, everything that's interconnected. And today we're looking at two of those, justice and equity. And as I was preparing for today's service, well, I'll get to that in a minute, because what I want to tell you is justice comes from a Latin root, justitia. Any Latin scholars here? One. Oh, I'm in trouble. Okay, because I'm not a Latin scholar. Justitia, justice, which means putting right, you know, like you justify a page. Right? Putting things to right. And sometimes we think of justice as punishment. But is that the meaning of the word justice? It's not the meaning of the word justice. Sometimes people use the word justice when what they mean is retribution. And that is not what justice means. It means making right, doing the right thing, making things as right as we can. And the word judge comes from justice, from the same root, and so we sometimes think of it in a very judgmental kind of way. Judgment is not always a bad thing. But when we're talking about justice, especially with love at the center, we're often talking about restorative justice and justice that lifts everybody rather than having a zero-sum game. So as I was preparing this service, Lorraine sent me this quotation from Adrienne Marie Brown, and it comes from Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good. And Adrienne Marie Brown says, liberated relationships are one of the ways we actually create abundant justice. The understanding that there is enough attention, care, resource, and connection for all of us to access belonging, to be in our dignity, and to be safe in community. Well, does that turn some things on its head? The idea that justice means that there's enough for everybody. Ooh. Ooh. Now, in 2017, General Assembly was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Anybody go to that General Assembly? I see one hand. That was a good General Assembly, and also some of the best food that we could get at a General Assembly, I'm just going to say. And right after that General Assembly, two UUA staffers, they were both tech staffers, but that doesn't matter, two UUA staffers had been walking down the street and they were attacked and beaten. It was a robbery, but they were hurt. One was severely hurt. One was in the hospital for a long time. And this rocked us as a Unitarian Universalist community. And our response as Unitarian Universalists, I have to say I'm really proud of us. Our response was to call for justice first to check on the two people who'd been attacked and their families, to make sure that everything that the rest of the community was doing was in alignment with them and that they were cared for first. Because when we're talking about justice and caring for people, and when there are things going on, when there's been an attack, the first people we have to care for are the ones who have been harmed. Yes? So in a situation where there's been police violence and someone has been harmed, do the police deserve care? Yes, they do. But are they the first ones to get care? No. First, we go to the people who have been affected by the violence. And why do I bring up police violence? I'm not saying that police violence is something that is Well, it does happen a lot in this country. I'm bringing it up because it happens a lot in this country. And do not hear me say all police are evil. I didn't say that. I'm saying we know that there's police violence. There's a reason, and now that police are wearing body cams, we're seeing more of it, right? And police absolutely deserve care. And anybody here read the book My Grandmother's Hands? In My Grandmother's Hands, he talks about black bodies, white bodies, and police bodies, and about caring for all of these bodies. And how all of these bodies and all of these souls are hurt by injustice and inequity, which we will get to in a little bit. So we care for those who have been hurt first. So in this instance in New Orleans, our UU community gathered around first the two folks who were hurt and their families, and then, with their permission, we began to seek restorative justice. What is restorative justice? Well, it happened that the two young people who had attacked them were young men of color, and they didn't have a history yet, and we didn't want to see them go and get long prison sentences. First of all, do you know what happens when we send people to prison? We make it more likely for them to go to prison again. If you didn't learn the bad habits the first time, you will certainly learn them among other people, plus then you come out and it's hard to get a job. There are a lot of reasons. So the recidivism rate, I haven't checked recently, but I know it's been at 80% at one point, and I don't know if it's higher or lower than that now, but 80%, that is not a good track record, right? We wanted, as Unitarian Universalists, we wanted community service. We wanted them to acknowledge what they had done, to have some consequences, because actions have consequences, right? Every action has a consequence. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There you go. You picked up something from 7th grade physics, right? Okay. So, that's what we were calling for. Now, the justice system in New Orleans was not such that I believe they did end up with prison sentences, alas. But our people did what they could, showed up in the courtroom wearing Side with Love shirts. By the way, we sang Answering the Call of Love this morning. Right? And you know, we changed the name of our social justice UU organizing campaign from Standing on the Side of Love to Side with Love. And why did we do that? Because of justice and also equity. Because folks with physical disabilities had been saying, please, for this most important work that we're doing, don't make it about standing. And when that group was originally forming, they ignored that input, and folks were hurt by it. And so there was an apology, there was restorative justice. People came together and talked. And we changed the name to Side with Love. And of course, the song that had been written, Standing on the Side with Love, that was written specifically for the campaign, well, the composer said, well, we can fix that too. And it became Answering the Call of Love. And that's why we sing those words now. Restorative justice. Not a punishment of those who made the initial decision, but a calling back into covenant, because we are a covenantal faith, and we are talking about our Unitarian Universalist covenant. This is one of the ways that we hold ourselves mutually accountable. when we're talking about equity, and these are two different petals, but they work together. Really, all of them interconnect, right? We know about intersectionality, but I thought justice and equity worked really well together. When we're talking about equity, as Deb told us already, we can't assume that everybody is starting from the same place. So I loved that anthem this morning. That was new to me when the musicians suggested it, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I know you liked it because you applauded. That was really good, right? That was really good. And what that piece is talking about is equity. Now, that was written in the early 90s, I want to say. Is that right? Early 90s? Thereabouts. Okay. So we've solved that issue, right? No, not so much. I hear you laugh. We can't be a racist society. We've had a black president. Yeah, again, right. So do you still hear people saying, well, those people, if we protect this class, they're going to get special treatment? That's a favorite rallying cry of those who don't want to let go of all the power. I just don't believe in special treatment. Oh, except for, let's think about the entire history here. Except for, how much privilege are those of us who are white carrying, even if we've never lived in the South, even if our families didn't come here until after slavery was over, legal slavery was over in this country? How much privilege do we gain from the systems that were put in place because of slavery? Our own United States Capitol building was built by slave labor. And the White House. The White House definitely. I might have gotten those mixed up. Built by slave labor. How much benefit are we still reaping from that history? Quite a lot. So there's been talk of reparations. There's been talk of reparations for a long time. Now, some of our congregations are actually working toward that. You know, sometimes we do a land acknowledgement. We here are worshiping on the lands of the Sitalkat people, yes? But saying it is one thing. What are we doing about it? Some congregations have begun paying reparations to the indigenous people on whose land they live and work. I know of one congregation that is paying reparations every time they sing a traditional African American spiritual. I don't know to what African American organization they are paying reparations, but they are paying reparations. Does anybody remember the safety pin boxes that came out around 2016, 2017, 2018? Yeah, I see some heads nodding. The point of those safety pin boxes, the founders of that organization said they didn't really care if people read the materials and did the work inside. It was about the reparations. It was about paying for that. Well, how's reparations fair? Nobody today was a slave, that's right, but people are still suffering because of the history. And that's what equity is about. It doesn't assume that we have a level playing field. It attempts to create a level playing field. I had these neighbors growing up, and they had two daughters. I was in the middle, so the daughters were 2 years apart, and I was in the middle, right? So we'd play together a lot. One was a year older than I, one was a year younger. And they had a distorted sense of what was fair, in my opinion. They had decided that it wasn't fair if they started something new as a family, but the younger daughter was 2 years younger, so she got to start it 2 years before her older sister. Well, that might work for things like when you can start taking flute lessons. But I remember specifically that when our two families went skiing together, I started skiing in elementary school. I don't know how old I was, and I might have been 10, and my little brother started at Ski-Wee when he's 7 years younger than I, so he was a little bitty thing on skis. And we all went to this ski trip together. And the younger daughter wasn't allowed to go skiing because it was only the first year that the family had started doing this, and she wasn't going to be allowed to go skiing for 2 more years until she was the same age her sister was. I didn't think that was equitable. So we were all out skiing, and she had to sit in the lodge with a grown-up. Oh, yeah, right? How stinky is that? And I tell you, I can't remember their names, but that stayed with me. Equity is not about equality. Equality is everybody gets a vote. And that's important, and everybody gets a vote. Equity is making sure that people can get to the polling places. If you close all the polling places in the black majority districts, that's not equity. Oh, it's equality. Go vote. You have a polling place. It's 40 miles away, but you have a polling place. So sometimes, if we don't know the whole situation, equity can look like an unfair advantage, like special treatment. But if you feel that bubbling up inside of you, if your first reaction is, why does that person get special treatment? I'm going to ask you to stop and take a breath and ask yourself, what am I reacting to? I wonder what that person's special needs are. You know, at Disney World, anybody here like Disney World? I love Disney World. Anybody here? There's a few people. I love Disney World. It's so much fun. And you know about things like the Children's Miracle Network. They provide, and Make-A-Wish Foundation, they seriously ill children, they make things happen for them. And many, many, many of those children, can you guess their wish is, I want to go to Disney World. And so they make it happen. So there are a lot of kids there from Make-A-Wish and Children's Miracle Network. And Disney really rolls out the red carpet for these kids. They don't have to wait on lines. They get special passes right into everything. And if you're looking from the outside, you might say, what's so special about that kid? But then when you realize it's entirely possible that this is a child who isn't going to grow to adulthood. They're not all terminally ill, but some of them are. This is a child who might not grow to adulthood. In me, that I start to feel, I want that child to not have to wait on a single line for the time that they have left. I want that child to enjoy every minute. But that's also true when we think about bathrooms and affirmative action. And lots of other ways that we can make up for the deficits that, my friends, we have caused. Perhaps you've heard, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But you know that lemons are a creation of human beings. Did you know that? Lemons are not, I mean, they're natural, but they're not natural. They didn't evolve naturally. They were bred to be extra sour. So I saw somebody post online recently, when life gives you lemons, it's because we made the problem. We made the lemons. So when life has given people lemons, let's remember who made those lemons in the first place. And you can't make lemonade without sugar. So let's make sure that if they've got all those lemons, the least we can do is make sure folks have the sugar. Are we ready to do the work of justice and equity in love, with love at the center? Really? Are we ready to do that? Are you sure? Because I'm not really sure you're sure. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. We can do this. You are the beloved community. Namaste.
At each service, it is our spiritual practice to take a collection, which we share with a local organization working for a more just future. But occasionally, in response to national or international crisis, we choose to partner with a group working more globally. This month, in keeping with the spirit of our 30 Days of Love, and in response to the growing concerns about the humanitarian crisis brought about by the recent horrific conflicts in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, we will share our plate with Doctors Without Borders, known internationally as Médecins Sans Frontières, aka MSF. Doctors Without Borders is providing independent, impartial medical humanitarian assistance to people who need it most, people affected by conflict, disease, outbreaks, natural and human-made disasters, and exclusion from health care in more than 72 countries and territories, which now include Gaza and Ukraine. Often the first and only ones to arrive on the scene and the last to leave, whether the situation is in the news or not, and regardless of personal risk, they have always been independent, impartial, and neutral, guided by universal medical ethics, committed to bearing witness and to diversity, equity, and inclusion as they remain transparent and accountable. So let's do our part. You may make your gifts in the plate or online. For those online, the link to donate is in the comments. Your gifts will be gratefully received and used well.
You can play the game and you can act out the part, though you know it wasn't written for you. Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Oh, father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Just shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. You can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. What do you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be just fine Things are gonna be much better if you only will. They say in every life,
Fill your love with love.
they say the
Show
rain
them
must
the way
fall,
that you feel.
just like the
Shower
pouring
the
rain.
people you love with love.
Make it
Show them
rain,
the way that you feel.
make it
Shower the
rain.
people you
Love, love,
with
love is sunshine.
that you feel.
Oh, things are gonna be much better if you only will.
I invite you to join me in dedicating the offering. The words are in your order of service. To the work of our faith, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these our offerings. Amen. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our final hymn, number 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation. And maybe play this through once first? You think we'll be okay? Okay. You're going to get it. Remain standing. Did that one energize you? Ooh. Beloveds, go in peace. Go with love at the center. Go and build justice and equity in the beloved community, and go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now, we extinguish our chalice flame, for our worship has ended, and our service begins. I invite you here in the sanctuary to wave goodbye to the folks online, again through the camera on your left.
Oh, well, I learned as a child there are two ways to see the world as it is and the way it should be. Now, some people say that's just not my problem. Some people do what must be done. Now they see a hole in the fabric that must be sewn. They see the way blockaded and they roll back the stone. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Yes, some people do what must be done. Well, they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon, and they do what must be done. Now I've seen the toll taken, the tears that were shed. I've seen the journey started and the ripples spread. Some people say that's just not my problem. Some people do what must be done. Now they see the hole in the fabric that must be sewn. They see the way blockaded and they roll back the stone. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Yes, some people do what must be done. Well, they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon, and they do what must be done. Oh, well, sometimes the darkness is all that we see, and we can't envision what the future will be. But in our hearts is that which can guide us. So we do what must be done. We see the hole in the fabric that must be sewn. We see the way blockaded and they roll back the stone. We see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Yes, some people do what must be done. Well, they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. They see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done. Oh, they see the day beyond the horizon and they do what must be done.